my underpainting. I use a combination of pastel primers on here that contain pumice, and I've created a value scaled underpainting with the gold and the terracotta colors that I like, because I like those warm colors underneath my pastels. That's what I've gotten used to over the years. So now when I'm finishing this with pastel, I'm concentrating on what does this need to create the colors that I want here. And the first thing actually that I do is I get in the darkest values, because the primers here, the terracotta really only goes up to a mid value. So I still have some darker values to get in here to complete my value scale. So that's usually what I start with. So I'll do that first.
Is that like a purple?
This is
eggplant?
actually, yeah, this is the eggplant.
Eggplant.
Yeah, the Terry Ludwig eggplant. So I like it as, I use it as my black because it's got a lot of color in it, but it's still very, very dark. So I think those are the only real spots of real dark. And then I have like a dark brownish color that I just basically finish up my dark values. So these bees are they're kind of hazy. They're kind of, you know, they're not really super crisp. So I don't want to draw them really super crisp. I want to keep them sort of a little bit impressionistic. Of course, my version of impressionistic might be somebody else's version of tight, super realism. Occasionally soften a little bit. So I like to get my brightest brights in pretty darn early, because since the underpainting shows a pretty accurate drawing, I know where the light highlights are going to be. I don't have to worry about getting them in and then going over them again with something darker. That's what can make mud. So I'm just going to sort of throw some of these really bright bits in here, because that's gonna give me a good map of where my darkest darks and my lightest lights are, and then it helps the mid-tones kind of fall into place better. This is I don't do all of the highlights. I just get like some little indication of where they are, because I will have some mid-tones coming up in there next to those highlights. I don't want any chance of mud happening. So the final highlights I am gonna get in there at the very end, but I like to just get a few of them in pretty early, just so I have that. And then you can keep going with that. Anytime I'm picking up another color, I'm thinking to myself, what does this need mostly right now? How it's coming along. There's still a lot to be done on the bees. There's still a lot to be done on the flower. But I think mostly it needs to get that background cooled off. So I'm going to do that now. I'm not going to be literal with that green color, because there are some blues and some teals that I really like when they go on top of this terracotta. So I'm going to use some and give it a little bit more variety. This is kind of a flat green.
It's got a complementary color, so it pops it.
So I'm touching really lightly here because I want to pick up some of that texture. And I'm going to combine a couple of these favorite, this blue and this green. Look at that green on top of that red. Ooh. You can stop there for a minute. So this mixture of these blues and greens and stuff I have here, cooling down that reddish background, And I haven't done anything to the bees, but they look warmer already because the background has cooled off.
Yeah.
So layering in some of these colors sort of randomly a little bit, keeping variety of tones. I have it slightly darker down here because I do kind of like that. It's slightly darker down here and it's slightly lighter up there. Kind of creates a little bit of depth. Need to find what, this is really close to this, but this is much cooler because it's shadowed. So I have to find the little color, the temperature that I see here that's going to make this more like a shadow and cool it down. So I'm seeing sort of a violety, sort of pinkish violety sort of color in there. Maybe something like that might work. I have the value right, so I don't need to change the value. I just need to cool down what's already there. This is kind of working a little bit. There's a little bit of green along through in there too. Maybe this edge. Purples and greens are my favorite shadowy colors. Mm-hmm. They really do a good job of cooling things down, cooling warm colors down.
Yeah, well, I'll come and look at it. I gotta get established over here.
Should I do the flower next, or should I do the bees next?
Bees.
All right. All right, I'm gonna jump into a fun part. I think there's something really bright in there. That's that bright orange. It's not very light though. So I'm gonna take one of my really intense reds and smack that in there a little bit. Ooh, look at that. Here. There's some light glowing through that part of the. Just a little bit of that. Now, there's other parts of the bee that's making this. What's making this look so bright orangey color is that the rest of the bee is not warm. It's cool. It's like greenish colors, dark. There's some dark greenish in here in the dark tones, so I'm gonna take something that's a dark greenish, one of these boring colors like that, and go in around my dark areas and cool that value down where it needs to go. There's also some flappy wing thing there that's like, I don't know what it's doing, but it's shadowy on this side. It's kind of blending in with the background, so try to do that. Let that blend in a little bit. Some here too. If you want to paint impressionistically, I mean, this looks pretty tight from a distance, but if you want to paint impressionistically, you can't go in like this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not doing this. I could be, but I'm not. So I'm keeping a distance, and I'm letting my strokes be a little bit loose. You know, they're not in exactly the right places. Yeah, they're close enough, right? Here, there's a little bit of a blueness on top of that tail because it's catching the light from the sky. So I'm gonna get that cool blueness down. Look at that. See, that's helping that shadow side cool down and helping that highlight look warm. Keeping that. There's a little bit of that blue over here. Maybe a little bit right here. I'm on the pollen now. That big blob of pollen. So beautiful, bright, beautiful, bright gold and yellow color. Oh yeah, there we go. Here, and here it's kind of blending in with the flower. So I'm going to use this gold color flower too, I think. That's a nice color for some of this flower. And what I've learned from other instructors too is that every stick of pastel has at least 2 colors in it. The pure color that you get when you press really heavy, and then the muted color you get when you press lighter and let it blend in with what's underneath. Now this flower has a lot of that underpainting color in it too already, so I'm not obliterating what's under there. I'm letting some of it speak. I kind of like what's going on over here, something a little more complex in these folds of this flower. So I'm gonna let that have a little bit of action. Now in here, there's more of a deeper color, deeper sort of gold color. Let's see, maybe this limey, a little limey green sort of color. It's kind of nice. Subtle change with the light coming through some of those petal parts. You can stop that. Alright, I'm going to jump back into these bees and see what they need to finish. I know there's some brightness around the legs and stuff catching the light, and there's a little bit more of orangey, warm oranginess happening in between the highlight and mid-tone. Let's see, maybe this one.
Well, there's some.
They just glow.
Okay, now you might say, I'm getting kind of detailed in here, yeah. Well,
young
there's some
lady.
tiny little highlights running along the edge of these legs, picking up a lot of light. I want to kind of get a feel of that look without getting it too sort of trying not to get too sort of crisp, you know. Light.
Come say hi to
But look at that antenna, isn't that cute?
You've been in powder room, so
You gotta get the antenna.
Really? Yeah, that makes it.
There's some warmth up here.
Loveland color.
And there's something a little bit less warm. Oh, I like that color.
I love the way
Kind of purple. That's kind of working for the
it
wing.
gets just better as you get.
Throw that in
This is
there.
my second time reading
Might
it,
work for some
and I need to.
sort of wing suggestion there.
Yeah, I like that color.
Something subtle. Toss in that glow on the edge.
It's just stuff like that, but I don't they just feel discouraged for a while. And I just thought $1,000 for those galleries. I can't stop.
That's what this teaches you. You can't give up on being creative, and you can't listen to it.
Here, a little bit of a shimmer that I'm not really seeing in the photo really, but I kind of like it over here. I wanted to balance it on the other side of that bee up there. Just something suggestive of a moving wing. Sort of like that, so maybe I'll try just taking the flat edge, very lightly touching it along the,
What are you gonna do with that?
see what happens.
Good.
Yeah, that's good.
It's all right. That might be all those bees need. Now, one thing I noticed when I took a photo with my camera a minute ago was that I'm not really happy with how crisp this flower is. So I'm gonna soften it a little bit. Maybe with just taking some pastel and like moving it, just kind of like messing up my edge a little bit around here and around here.
Oh yeah, that does.
Just giving it a little bit less. So I want the eyes to go
Yes,
here
yes.
more than down there. Down there can stay soft. And I think maybe I'll continue that thought and just soften up some of this background. Farther away from the bees, just letting it be softer around the edges. Now, I spent 5 years early on in my pastel career. I spent 5 years not putting my fingers in it because I was a chronic overblender. Okay? So that's what you got to do. You got to go cold turkey for a very long time in order to learn how to.
How did you stop being an